My name is Timothy Gerritsen, and I am a recently retired video game executive. I've been in the industry for over 30 years. Started out as a game designer, became a producer, eventually started running studios. Most recently, I was chief operating officer of Lost Boys Interactive.
Okay, let's start there. How did you navigate all of that? I'm sure that was an interesting time, especially now that the industry is sort of evolving and, constantly change is about. So like how was that transition being in it so long and seeing it now?
Oh man, it's so much different. When I first started, a AAA team was 10, 11 people.
Hmm.
And even that was considered a big change from previously.
Yeah.
AAA budget was million, maybe 2 million. That's what people were spending. You put in a game out when I first got in, you put a game out on 2, 3 floppy disks, because that's how far back it goes. Over the years, everything grew, budgets grew, salaries grew, the computer requirements grew, everything grew. Most recently, been involved with teams up to 400, 500 people. It's a much different thing. You put games out, sometimes one Blu-ray, two Blu-rays. So download has kind of killed all that. Game sizes have gotten huge. We used to try so hard to get everything squeezed down onto one tiny disc, and now everybody just makes things as big as they possibly can. So
Yeah.
it's really changed over the years.
Huh. That's pretty interesting. Now you have the technology boom and AI and all of this stuff. Was that a part of the reason why you got out of, running that? Is the change, or like what was that sort of turning point for you?
The reason I retired is my kids are grown early in the industry. I think things have changed for the better in terms of work-life balance. But back when I first joined, everybody had a no sleep till Brooklyn attitude. You just worked and you got the game out. So I wouldn't see my family to be working between 12 and 18-hour days. It got a little crazy during crunch mode. Things burned out when the kids are younger. So I always tried to carve out time to be with my kids. But the industry kind of frowned on that work-life balance way back. I remember sleeping under my desk. I remember giving it my all. Nowadays, largely through the efforts of people who, like me, had to do that back in the day, we
Hmm.
start getting into management and saying there's got to be a better way. Nowadays, a lot of companies, we're still professionals. We still have to work overtime from time to time, but there's a
Hmm.
big difference between I had to work 3 hours extra this week to get the milestone done. And I had to sleep under my desk because there's no way I could get what was on my workload out
Yeah.
the door. But in a lot of ways, work-life balance got better. But now that my kids are grown, I've wanted to give back to my wife and say, hey, here's some of my time. Let's
Yeah.
explore. Let's go travel. Also, just taking a break. The industry is kind of a mess right now. Taking some time off to gauge where things are at. Do I still want to be doing this? I've been making games for 30 years. Do I just make indie games? Do I just make stuff for myself and for fun? Or do I have another 1, 2, or 3 big games in me to get out? So I'm just taking a year to kind of see where the land lies and how things are going and how am I going to move forward.
And so where does MDev and these conferences kick in for you? Because obviously I'm sure that was a part of,
Oh,
your
sure. Well,
regular routine already.
yeah, I mean, I was one of the core founders of MDEV from
Mhm.
back in the day. I still give a lot to the local community in terms of the games industry. I'm still heavily involved. I kind of stepped away from them formally, but I'm still involved behind the scenes. MDEV was my passion project when we first started it. Back in 2016, we started putting together a Wisconsin focused game development group that
Mhm.
was beyond companies. As a community, what do we want to do? How do we put ourselves on the map? We had been making games for a long time in Wisconsin, but nobody really noticed. Raven had been here from way back. My own Human Head, which I helped co-found, had been around since 97. We'd been making games for a long time, and then more and more people started making games here. We really wanted to put a stake in the ground, say, hey, there's a reason to come here and make games. So a group called the Madison Regional Economic Partnership got together and started looking for, like what are industries we can really promote in the area? And they were like, hey, we
Mhm.
got these video game companies. What can we do there? So they reached out to us, and with their help, we started putting together this organization and trying to identify what we need. I really fought hard for a developers conference, a professional development conference here in Wisconsin to really promote the industry locally and gather people locally. And that in itself was kind of a fight because I know some of the people really wanted to, well, let's just do something as part of a different conference. Let's make
Yeah.
it a secondary thing. I fought really hard to make this its own thing. Back then, it was only about 9 years ago when we started fighting to make it happen. I wasn't in the best financial place. They were like, if we're going to do this, you got to put personal guarantees on the line.
Yeah.
I talked to my wife and we figured, I believe in this, let's do it. So I put some personal guarantees on the line to make the first one happen. It went great. We've been growing for a number of years, and really it exists. It's a showcase for all game developers. Really doesn't matter where you're from. The MDEV never really had a meaning. Like people, oh, it's the Midwest Development Conference. No, it's the Madison Development. No, M never really meant anything. Somebody just suggested as a name, and I thought it was a cool name, and that bit of mystery kind of helps. It's more of a vibe, like, it's MDEV. Come on,
Yeah.
get together. Let's work together, make games. I mean, it's become the premier Midwestern game development conference, but the whole goal was get anybody, any walks of life. If you want to get into games, you want to make games, you want to know what game development's like, you are a professional game developer and you want to network with your peers, show off your game. Really is a community driven effort. Nobody owns it. It's not a corporation. It's kind of like Game Developers Conference used to be back in the days when Chris Crawford was holding it in his house. Chris Crawford really originated the original Game Developers Conference, and it grew. And eventually it was bought and turned into a corporate thing. Right now, MDEV is in that stage where it's a bunch of volunteers who get together and make it happen. And all the proceeds go back to Wisconsin Games Alliance, which is our local game trade organization. We pour their money right back into development, promoting development locally. We hold events 4 times a year where we get everybody together socially. But MDEV is our big showcase. And
Yeah.
get everybody on the stage, showing off their stuff, talking, sharing what they know, sharing their skills. We want to give back. We want the next generation to be able to make great games.
I know you said anybody can come in, but I mean, this is sort of a Midwest thing. What do you think about the Midwest? What is it about that part of the world that is generating all of these game companies and things like that?
Sure.
I mean, before I talked to Ben or some of the other people that have come from that region, I never knew that games were being made there either. I think that's very interesting.
I started my career back in Eugene, Oregon at Dynamics. It was a really cool, vibrant company back in the day. A small group. I think we had like 150 people, but we were cranking out maybe 4 or 5 games a year out of the place with the different teams we had. Really amazing stuff for the time. If you go back and look at the old Dynamics lineup, there's some really cool games that were foundational in the industry, and I loved being there. But I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I had to move out there. That was my first job. I was a game designer for them. I started thinking, what would it take if I wanted to start something? Because I was kind of beginning some entrepreneurial leanings, and I was like, okay, what do I want to do? What would be a good place to do it? And I was saying, well, the thing about Wisconsin is it's got a combination of a deep group of people who are both artists and technical people. Making games is fundamentally interdisciplinary. You got to have technical skills, got to have art skills, you got to have organizational skills. It's more interdisciplinary than any other vocation I can think of. It's more interdisciplinary than movies. It's more interdisciplinary than building a house. I'm not saying, and those are unique skills and hard things to do in and of themselves. But with games, you're combining programmers, writers, artists, animators, testers. It's a combination of different types of people who think differently. Wisconsin has this unique combination in a way. And if you look back at what came out of here, like Frank Lloyd Wright, who's a famous architect, got his big start here in Wisconsin. Taliesin is here, and his old school was here before he moved. Dungeons and Dragons, which was hugely influential in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and through to today. Well, Dungeons and Dragons started here in a place called Lake Geneva. A guy named Gary Gygax that was here in Wisconsin. And then, going back to Heretic and Hexen and their first games and the stuff they were working on way back in the day. So you've had these really cool organizational things, but Wisconsin's always had this neat combination of technology, creativity, work ethic, and art. And I think you need all those elements to really make a great place to make games. I moved back here and I was like, man, I really want to make this work. That's when we co-founded Human Head Studios. I really wanted to make games here. I really wanted to make it work. And we fought really hard to do that. Over the years, it's really grown. Now we have Respawn, Filament Games, Raven is still here. Human Head morphed into ZeniMax and then became something else. Lost Boys is here. And you've got other companies as well doing really interesting and innovative stuff. And you've got a lot of individual people working remotely from here as well. So it's really grown over the years, become bigger and bigger. PUBG has a big office here. Their creative director actually is out of Madison.
Okay.
Animax's art director is out of Madison. He used to work with me and was one of my partners at Human Head Studios, a guy named James Sumwalt. I think over the years, it's really grown. We now have well over 500 people in just the Madison area. Then you got people like Ben Koalo, who's got Midwest Games out of Green Bay. You got all these indie companies that are coming up all around the area. We're not that far from Chicago. We're not that far from Minneapolis. We tend to draw on and feed each other as well. It's got interesting vibe. It's affordable to live here, which is another big.
Yeah.
If you're going to make games in New York City, or you're going to make games in LA, it's much more expensive to do that. And, we're also, I think we have some interesting things we can do here. We're currently working on trying to get tax breaks in Wisconsin for game development. I don't know how that will go. I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
But, we're working with politicians to try to make that happen. There's this cool vibe in the air here, bringing creativity and technology and art together. And MDEV is really a cool showcase of all of that.
Yeah. And that was going to be my next question. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, what do you think is the main difference between like MDEV and another conference like a PAX or GDC or something like that? Like, what is the secret sauce of MDEV?
Well, my first GDC was less than 500 people in a single ballroom in Santa Clara, California. That's how far back I go. It was so approachable then. I remember the very first year I was there, I went up to Sid Meier and had a conversation. I went up to Danny Button and had a conversation. I went there with Damon Sly, one of the leaders of our company from Dynamics. It was cool. I could just go up to all these people who make these amazing games and talk to them. And at GDC has gotten so big. I love GDC, but it is so enormous. If you're just a kid starting out and want to get into games, it's fun to go. It's so hard to just run into these people and have great conversations. And the thing about GDC was back then was so small. You got to the pool bar after the show and talk with Sid Meier. And these days, GDC, has gotten so big, it's hard to have those sorts of things. PAX is great because it's so much fun. It's more a consumer-focused show, though, and it's also so big. I think the thing with MDEV, it's, we're like 1,500 people is how big we've gotten. We started around 300. We've grown a little bit every year. Eventually, it'll probably grow so big that it'll be the same way. But right now, 1,500 people. You can go in there. You can meet famous developers within the area. We also bring a lot of great speakers from around the world. And you can meet them, talk to them, and pick their brains, and figure out, like, hey, what were you thinking here? What's going on here? What do you recommend here? If you are just starting out, you're going to get some stronger networking done. The GDC, if you're one of, I don't even know how big it is now, like 25,000 people, it's so much harder to have that kind of conversation with people.
Yeah.
That access and the ability to see the same people, because it's so small, all day long, even at 1,500, you just run into the same people. You can have those conversations, pull somebody aside and ask them questions. It's also small enough you can see everything. We have a big showcase where people bring their own games and show them off. You can sit down with the makers, give them direct feedback, and have those conversations. That feeling of community is one of the big differences.
This year, I'll get to go to my first MDEV, so good time. Talked about how it's grown from its inception. What does the near future look like to you? What do you think people can come to expect from MDEV in the near future as it continues to grow?
Well, this year we added a second day. We used to be a one-day show. This will be our first year trying 2 days. So trying to see how that impacts things. We're going to have to sit back and take stock. How did that impact? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And see how that affects things. But adding that second day is a big thing because it allows us to do a lot more. I think moving forward, it'll probably be 2 days for a few years. We're talking about a lot of different things. Maybe we add a commercial day, like fan day, or more audience-focused day where people come out, play the games, and check things out. We've kind of experimented with it, but not doing like a full, like how Gamescom does in Europe, where they have like DevCom, which is a couple of days of developer talks, and then they do the actual Gamescom, which is all public focused.
Right.
We might, we're talking about stuff like that. That's a possibility, because I do think having a video game focused game show in this area would be a lot of fun and really neat, because really, PAX is on the West Coast, PAX is on the East Coast. And then there's PAX Unplugged, which I forget where they hold that. But you don't
Uh-huh.
really have a video game focused show. You still have Gen Con over in Indianapolis, but they used to have it here in Wisconsin. Having a video game focused show like that would be a lot of fun. We do have Midwest Gaming Classic, which is a retro show in April of every year in Milwaukee. It's a fantastic show, but it's more retro focused. I think having a modern video game focused show, inviting the big players to come show off the latest, greatest games for the coming year,
Yeah.
would be a fantastic thing. But I don't know if we do that. It's something we're looking at.
Behind the scenes, what goes into organizing this sort of stuff? You don't have to go too deep into the weeds on it, but you were there, you know, pushing for it. So what goes into those talks, those introductions into, hey, this is something that we really do need here?
Sure. Putting together a show like this, before I had done it, I didn't realize what was all involved until I went and did it. You got to get a venue and put money up for that. Venues aren't cheap. You got to make sure you have all the availability. We're a tech show, so you got to have a good technical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Making sure you have solid internet, making sure you have solid power, because you know, it's not like other shows you can just come put up a table and show off your stuff. You got to bring computers, a lot of electronics, displays. That all takes a lot of effort. Making sure that the technical underpinnings for the show are solid is something we really focused on over the last few years of growing. You know, at first it was kind of like having a private party where everybody just got together, but the show got too big for that. So now, like, you know, we have a designated IT team, we have a designated group of subcommittees that go out and talk to people. It's still a ton of organization, and we have a show manager who does a fantastic job. She joined last year. She did a great job of keeping things organized. All the vendors need to know where they're going. All the exhibitors know where they're going. Even if you're just one person showing up with a laptop, showing their game off, you got to know where you're going. You got to know how you're getting on the internet. You got to know where your power is coming from. You got to know where you're going to display and how you're setting up and what are your options for seating and tables and all that. Then there's food. We used to feed everybody. That got too big. And last year was the first year we stopped feeding everybody because it just, GDC used to do the same thing. We used to have a big dinner. Then it just got too big. You can't do it over a certain point. And we hit that point. It's too big for that. But you still got to have food vendors there. You still got to have food for the people who are coming. It's just now working with vendors who are going to sell the food directly. Make sure speakers know where they're going and they can chill out and relax before or after the talk, making sure the talks are all set up and ready to roll. The last thing you want to do is show up in front of a podium, stick your laptop on there and nothing works. And you can see what you're talking about. All of that is a Herculean effort. One of the biggest groups of unsung heroes at MDEV is the volunteers. Every year we have a fantastic group of volunteers. They give part of their time. They're there to work. We give them time to go to some of the talks, but you're also sacrificing some of your time so you can work. That's fantastic. These people do such a great job every year, organizing them, making sure they know where to go and what they're supposed to be doing.
Obviously, they'll see everything else you just said about it. But say someone has never been to MDEV, heard of MDEV, it's the first time they ever, you know, come across MDEV. Like, what is the first thing you would say to them to sort of introduce them and say, hey, this is the place for you?
Sure. MDEV is a professional video game development conference. I say professional, but honestly, it's open to anybody who wants to or is making video games or is even interested in what video games are all about. It's focused on the trade. So it's coming to hear talks about how do I do things from a technical perspective? How do I do things from a legal perspective? How do I do things from a business perspective? You're going to get answers and experts on all of the topics involved with making a game, who are going to be speaking over 2 days now, giving you their time and feedback. You can learn how certain games got made. You can learn how people screwed up because those are talks. This is what I did wrong. Don't do this. Or here's how I did it wrong. Here's how I fixed it in the next time. It's also fantastic for networking. If you want to meet people you want to invest in you, you want to get a job, you want to network for future jobs, you just want to get a lay of the land, it's a fantastic place to come and talk to people and see what video games are all about. With our showcase, which is where people bring their games and show them off, mainly indie games, people bring their projects and show them off and get feedback. It's a great place to do that. If you've got a game and you really want to show it off, you can come do that. If you want to check out games and see what's going on in the indie community, it's a great place for that as well. And it's a great social time too, because we have parties each of the nights, so you can hang out and see people after hours and get to talk to them further.
Very cool. If people want to find some of the things that you've done and know more about MDEV, how can they find this stuff?
Sure. MDEV is mdevconf.com. If you just type in MDEV into Google, it'll come up. Letter M, DEV. So just look up MDEV conference. You'll find it. mdevconf.com. You'll find out the information on the latest there, and more information will be released as we get closer to the show. The other place is Wisconsin Games Alliance, which WGA, that is our local trade group. There's information about the local lay of the land in terms of game development, as well as a little bit about MDEV. As for myself, I retired recently, so the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn and reach out if you want to talk. I talk to a lot of people who are just getting in the industry. More than happy to, at least give some feedback if I can. This industry has always been about people who are passionate about what they want to do and bringing their art and craft to what they want, to express themselves. It's such a great community, and that we all want to help each other, even at this tough time in the industry. I can give you advice. It's not the greatest time in the industry, but I'm more than happy to help you out however I can.
Thank you so much.